Hello and welcome to this radio show, which is about Windows operating systems and the history of them. Windows is actually my favourite operating system. I grew up with it, especially Windows XP. I've pretty much used that all my life. And sometimes I do actually still use it in a virtual machine on my PC or MacBook. It's always a great experience. My favourites have got to be Windows 10, Windows XP and Windows 7. But anyways, let's get on to the history of them. First of all, Windows 1.0. This is the first version of Microsoft Windows to exist. Version 1.0. This version of Windows was released on the 20th of November 1985. This operating system did not have very much popularity. At first, this operating system was codenamed as Interface Manager. The head of Microsoft, Roland Hansen, thought the word Windows would be more appealing to the customers. This operating system is not a complete operating system. It was more of an operating environment that was extended on MS-DOS. It shared the same flaws and problems and bugs MS-DOS had. The first version of Windows included a simple graphic paint called Microsoft Paint, Windows Write, simple word processor, calendar, a notepad, clock, control panel, computer terminal, clipboard and a RAM driver. Second version of Windows ever to exist is called Windows 2.0X. This version of Windows came out on the 9th of December 1987. Windows 2.0 was more popular than Windows 1.0 with its runtime version, with Microsoft's new applications such as Excel, Word for Windows. They could be run through MS-DOS, executing Windows for duration of their activity and closing Windows upon exit. This operating system was the start of the success of Windows. Later, two versions were released: Windows 2.86 2.1 and Windows 3.86 2.1. Like the pioneer versions of Windows, Windows 2.86 2.1 used the real mode memory module. Windows 3.0. This operating system was released in May 1990. This operating system had improved capabilities given to applications. It allowed users to multitask a whole lot better with MS-DOS based software compared to Windows 3.86. This is all thanks to the introduction of virtual memory. The user interface finally has icons like the Macintosh computer did at the time. PCs had improved graphics by the time was due to VGA video cards and also DOS counterparts could. This operating system can run in standard, real or even 3.86 enhanced modes. Also capable with Intel processors, which was from the 8086 and 8088 up to 80286 and 08386. This version of Windows run in protected mode. OS 2. In the mid-1980s, Microsoft and IBM had been developing OS 2, which was a great successor to DOS. This operating system would be good advantage of Intel 80286 processor at up to 16 megabytes of RAM. OS 2.0 was released in 1987 that supported DOS programs, also known as executables. A GUI's called Presentation Manager was not available with OS 2 until version 1.1 was released in 1988. Windows 3.1X. This operating system was released in 1992 in response to the release of OS 2.0. Microsoft developed Microsoft 3.0, which included so many improvements to Windows 3.0. This includes improvements of true type scale fonts, which developed with Apple and improved disk performance in 286 enhanced mode and multimedia support, also bug fixes. Field mode was also removed. This operating system only ran on 80286 or better processor. Later, Microsoft also released Windows 3.11, which was basically a touch-up for Windows 3.1, which also included all the patches and for bugs and updates that followed the release of Windows 3.1 in 1992. Windows NT 3.1. Microsoft continued to develop Windows NT. Dave Cutler was the main architect of this operating system, who was the one chief architect of VMS at Digital Apartment Corporation, which later acquired by Compaq Company, which is now part of HP, which stands for Hewlett Packard, if you didn't know. Microsoft hired Dace Cutter to help create Windows NT 3.1, but he created a completely different operating system instead. Cutler had been developing a follow-on to VMS at DEC called Mica. WMS DEC dropped the project. He brought around 20 engineers with him to Microsoft. Microsoft finally agreed to pay $150 to support DEC Alpha CPU chip in NT. Windows NT Workstation, Microsoft marketing wanted to be a continuation of Windows 3.0. Driver support was lacking due to programming difficulty in dealing with Windows NT's hardware. It was hard to make programs for Windows NT. Even programmers complained about it being hard to write drivers for NT, and the hardware developers were not going through the trouble of trying to develop drivers for a small part of the market, although this was allowing good performance of more use of the system resources. It was also resource intensive on limited hardware, and it was only suitable and larger and more expensive for Windows 95. This operating system was released on the 24th of August, 1995. After Windows 3.11, Microsoft began to develop a new operating system, which was codenamed Chicago. Chicago was designed to have 32-bit multitasking, just like OS2 and Windows NT, although 16-bit did remain for backwards compatibility. This was the first operating system to have a start button and start menu and an improved taskbar. This operating system was also improved for more. Windows 95 was the final name for it. Windows 95 did not support more than 512 megabytes of RAM. Windows NT 4.0, released in July 1997. 1 year after the release of Windows 95. Windows 4.0 was the successor of 3.51. New features of this operating system include major new features included the Explorer shell from Windows 95, scalability, and feature improvements to core architecture, kernel, user 32, COM, and MSRPC. Windows 98 came out on the 25th of June 1998. The year I was born, which was codenamed Memphis. It included new hardware drivers, also FAT32 file system, which supports disk partitions that are larger than 2 GB, which was first introduced into Windows 95. USB support improved in Windows 98. Windows 2000 was released on February 1, 1999. It has the version of Windows NT 5.0. It was a successful operating system. The features of Windows 2000 were Active Directory, a near-complete replacement of NT 4.0, Windows Server domain model, which built on industry standards technology such as DND, Kubernetes, LDA, also improved device manager, Windows Media Player, and a revised DirectX, which made it possible for the first time to run modern games which work on NT kernel. The operating system also wasn't included for home users. It was more of a business operator. Windows 2000 editions: Windows 2000 Professional, Windows 2000 Server, Windows 2000 Advanced Server, Windows 2000 Data Center Server, Windows Me. In September 2000 was released Windows Me. Me is short for Millennium Edition. Windows Me was the last DOS-based operating system. Windows Me included a new video editing application which is called Windows Movie Maker, first version of System Restore, which is a recovery utility that lets you revert back to system files to a certain date and time. System Restore would continue in Windows XP 7, etc. A lot of people hated Windows Me because of its sustainability issues and lacking DOS support, which was still there, but it was hidden. People called it Mistake Edition because it had so many errors and problems with it. Windows XP, always a great experience. Windows XP. This operating system was released on the 25th of October 2001. Codenamed Whistler, merging Windows NT/2000 and Windows 95/98/me lines were finally achieved with Windows XP. Windows XP was also the first version of Windows to not have MS-DOS mode in it. Windows XP uses NT 5.1 kernel. There was 3 service packs for Windows XP as it had some security. XP stands for experience, and I say it's always a great experience. Windows XP available editions: Windows XP Home Edition, Windows XP Professional, Windows XP Media Center, Windows XP Tablet Edition, Windows XP Embedded, Windows XP Starter Edition, Windows XP Professional x64 Edition, and Windows XP 64 Edition. Windows Server 2003. On 25th April 2003, an update to Windows 2000 Server which included better security features, a new virtual server wizard that simplifies configuring a computer for specific roles and also improved performance. It has the version number NT 5.2. A few services were disabled because of stability reasons. The most noticeable are Windows Audio and Theme surfaces. Users will have to enable them manually to get the Luna theme, just like the Windows XP theme Luna. The hardware acceleration for display is turned off by default. Users will have to turn up the acceleration level up if they trust the display card driver. On December 2005, Microsoft released Windows Server 2003 R2, which actually Windows Server 2003 Surface Pack 1, which also was add-on package. There was a number of magnet features of branch offices, file sharing company, identity integration of Windows XP X-bit and Server 2003 x64-bit versions. On the 20th of April 2005, Windows XP Professional 64-bit edition of Windows XP and Windows Server 2003 by Microsoft 64-bit editions in Standard, Enterprise and Data Center SKUs. Windows XP Professional x64 edition is an edition of Windows XP for x86 64-bit computers. This is designed to use expanded 64-bit memory address space provided by the x86 64 architecture. Windows XP Professional x64 edition is based off Windows Server 2003 codebase. Just server features removed and client features were added. They also use identical kernels. Don't confuse Windows XP x64-bit edition with Windows XP 64 edition, as it was designed for Intel Intellium processors. Windows XP Professional x64 was named Windows XP 64 edition for 64-bit Optums extended. Windows Server 2003 R2. This update of Windows Server 2003, it was released to manufacturing on the 6th of December 2005. This operating system is distributed on CDs, one big Surface Pack, and other adds many installable features that are optional for Windows Server 2003. The R2 update was released for all x86 and x64 versions. Windows Server R2 Enterprise Edition was not released for Intellium. Windows Fundamentals for legacy PCs. July 2006, this operating system was released, which is a thin client version of Windows XP Surface Pack 2, which is called Windows Fundamental for Legacy PCs, short WinFLP. This operating system is only available to software assurance customers. To the point of this was to give companies an upgrade option for older PCs that were running older versions of Windows, such as Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows Me, that will have Microsoft support with patches and updates for the next few years to come. Most applications will typically run on remote machine or using or terminal services or Citrix. Windows Home Server. This was codenamed Q Quattro. This server was based on Windows Server 2003, which is designed for home customer. Russell Adolfo announced this operating system on the 7th of January 2007. You can configure and monitor it by using a console program which can be installed on a client computer. The features such as media sharing, local, remote driver backup and file duplication. This Surface Pack 3 Windows Server power and added support for Windows 7 to Windows Home Server. Windows Vista. This operating system was released on the 8th of November 2006. Windows Vista was the first version of Windows to have UACs, which stands for User Account Control, to help improve security. Replaced Administrator by default that was in Windows XP. A lot of people hated Windows Vista. Windows Vista was the first version of Windows to change the Start button, which it was replaced by the Windows logo. It doesn't have Start next to the Windows logo, which is called Start Off. This operating system included some new features, which are called in the Windows area GUI. New applications such as Windows Calendar, Windows DVD Maker, and a few new games such as Chess, Mahjong, and Purple Palette. Windows Vista editions. Windows Vista Starter, Windows Vista Home Basic, Windows Vista Home Premium, Windows Vista Business, Windows Vista Enterprise, Windows Vista Ultimate. Windows Server 2008. This was released on the 25th of February 2008. The code name for this was Longhorn. It had UACs like Windows Vista, which is with its security advantages, and it's improved security compared to Windows Server 2003. Windows Server 2008 has 10 editions, which are Windows Server 2008 Standard Edition, Windows Server 2008 Enterprise Edition, Windows Server 2008 Data Center Edition, Windows HPC Server 2008, Windows Web Server 2008, Windows Storage Server 2008, Windows Small Business Server 2008, Windows Essential Business Server, Windows Server 2008, Windows Server 2008 Foundation Server. Windows 7 was released on the 22nd of July 2009. This operating system codenames were Black, Chrome, and Vanilla. A few features of Windows 7 are faster booting, device state, Windows PowerShell, less annoying user account control, multi-touch, and improved Windows Magnet. Some Windows Vista features were removed in Windows 7, although the sidebar is removed, but you can still have the gadgets on the desktop if you wanted. And if you wanted, you had to download the Windows Live programs. They don't come pre-installed in Windows 7. Windows 7 is called Windows 7 because it's the 7th version of Windows to have a start menu and start button. Windows 7 available editions. Windows 7 Starter, Windows 7 Home Basic, Windows 7 Home Premium, Windows 7 Professional, Windows 7 Enterprise, Windows 7 Ultimate. Windows Home Server 2011. It was released on the 6th of April 2011. It was codenamed Veil. This was built on Windows Server 2008 R2 code cased, but it removed the drive extender, drive pooling tech, and the original Windows Home Server. 2011 only supports x86 and x64. Microsoft decided to get rid of WHS 2011 on the 5th of July 2008, while it features into Windows Server 2012 Essentials. Windows Home Server supported until 12th of April 2006, so the support ends next month, as this month is March. So yeah, if you're still using that, best to upgrade maybe, I guess, or use good antivirus and firewall. Windows Phone PC. In 2011, Microsoft introduced Windows Phone PC. This is a size-reduced, locked-down version of Windows 7, which is designed to run on older PCs into thin client. This operating system relies on cloud computing on a business network. It has full wireless integration, but wired connection might be better than wireless connection. Windows 8 and Windows Server 2012. On the 26th of October 2012, Windows 8 was released. Windows RT runs on a system on a chip devices with mobile 32-bit ARM-v7 processors. Windows 8 has redesigned the user interface, which was designed to make it easier for touchscreen users to use Windows. They removed the start menu and replaced it with a start screen. Also, full screen application platform. There is also a desktop for running Windows applications, although Windows RT can't really run any desktop applications, only the standard Windows pre-installed applications such as WordPad, Paint, Internet Explorer, etc. Windows 8 boots up way faster than Windows 7 and any older operating systems. Windows features of Windows 8 includes USB 3.0 support, Windows Store, the ability to run from USB devices to Windows To Go and other Windows kernel number 6.2. Windows 8.1, the kernel number of it is 6.3. So far, none of them have had Surface packs. Windows 8 available versions: Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 8 Pro, Windows 8 Enterprise, and Windows 8 RT. Windows 10. This is the current release of Windows, which came out on the 29th of July 2015. For users, this was a free upgrade on Windows 7 and Windows 8 and Windows 8.1 for the first year, and then you have to pay for it after a year has passed of Windows 10. The new features of Windows 10 includes Cortana, new Microsoft Edge browser, Windows application, windowed Windows Store applications, virtual desktop task view, improved Action Center, the Xbox application. Microsoft Edge is Microsoft's new browser, which is designed to be a lightweight browser and is actually better than Internet Explorer. Microsoft also brought back the Start menu in Windows 10, which everybody loved. Windows 10 available versions: Windows 10 Home and Windows 10 Pro. So yeah, that's all the operating systems I went into. So I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something new about Windows and the history of Windows and whatnot. What's your favourite version of Windows and what version of Windows do you use? And I hope you have a nice